Welcome to a very Halloween edition. I don't even know if you can see us, to be honest, for those of you watching. We're in the red light district today. You are listening to the latest episode of Templar Talks. We are still not in any kind of a studio. We're still in my fucking living room. But we do actually have some updates regarding that later. And in the meantime, we have some great topics to talk about today. Todd, what are we discussing?
Season roundup. How's the modern season gone for Team Templar? World's discussion.
Did you actually, just to quickly, completely disrupt the topic reading, do you know anything that happened at Worlds?
No.
Okay, cool. And anything else? What else are we going over?
I don't know any of what we're going to be talking about. Standard, whatever that is.
Yep.
Old format. New rules changes and Universes Beyond kind of joining the roster.
That's an interesting one as well, in terms of, I don't know how much of that you actually saw at the weekend.
I know the Too Long didn't read.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure what you... tell you what, let's just kick off with that topic. Let's kick off with the big announcements of the weekend regarding Universes Beyond, rules changes, etc., etc. So there were kind of 4 big things, I would say, announced at the weekend. So I'll reel them off, and I don't know which ones you'll have heard of and which ones you won't. So starting with the most obvious, I think you know that Universes Beyond is now legal in all formats. Did you?
Yes. Future Universes Beyond.
Future, so from 2025. Yeah. So we're not going to have the One Ring in Standard, even though that'd be hilarious if they ban it in Modern and they're like, but. So Universes Beyond in Standard. Every other set is now going to be Universes Beyond. So effectively it's like Standard set, Universes Beyond, Standard set, Universes Beyond, but obviously all legal in Standard. They are changing the rules with combat damage. Did you
I've heard that. I don't know what the rules change is.
Okay, cool. So with that one, this has been probably at least... so I was at the Axion RCQ in Amersham this past weekend. For context, it is the 29th of October. This episode, I think, will go live on Halloween, hence the lighting. But it seemed that most of the discourse I heard was that people were most upset about this change. More than Universes Beyond, which surprised me, because I thought Universes Beyond would be the big one. I have heard a lot of discourse about that as well. But what they've done is, previously, obviously you would assign which creature blocks first. So say you had 2 creatures blocking, this one would be blocked first, so 4 damage would have to go to that one if it's a 4/4, whatever. And you'd assign, the damage, and you could do some silly combat tricks and pump the one that's blocking first, so the other one wouldn't die.
Yeah.
Now, all combat damage just happens. Yeah. So, say you block with a 1/1 and a 4/4, and you're blocking a 5/5, and the person wants to kill the 4/4 first. Now, if you did a combat trick on that 4/4, the 1/1 would still die. Because effectively all the combat damage just gets assigned by the attacker at once. Yeah. So, if someone does a combat trick, you can just be like, oh, well, I'll do 1 there. Yeah. And it does it. So people seem to be outraged about that. It seems to be just a simplification of the rules. If you actually want the full in-depth detail of that, please look at their article, because there's probably 100 phases and combat steps and different iterations here that windows of opportunity for you to do these things. But effectively they've simplified it, so there's not as many blocking combat shenanigans you can do, which has upset some people. I think because they thought it was just needless, but I don't know. I don't think there's any harm in it either. So
all the power happens to all the things that are blocking.
So say someone I don't know. Say what's the best way? Say there's a 1/1 and a 1/1, and you're attacking with a 2/2, and they block with both 1/1s. If one of those 1/1s that was blocking, you can't really block first anymore. So you can't block first and then pump it by 4, so it just survives. Now the damage all happens at once, so there's no ordering. So you can just be like, well, I'll do 1 there, and the 1/1 will still die, even though it's So you can't order it. As far as I understand, this could have been the worst way to open this episode, because we haven't had one in a while. So we are just clowns without someone like Raoul Zimmerman or Benton Madsen to carry us through our absolute nonsense. But we do actually have an exciting announcement regarding the fact that we're just 2 clowns sat here in a room on our own. but we'll have that at the end of the episode to make you keep watching. Endure the pain with us. But yeah, so there's that change. And then the big one, as far as I can remember, the big one, in my opinion, the big one, is they're bringing back MSRP.
Yeah,
which
that's good.
has gone for ages. And funny enough as well, so I have seen, I saw you link actually, Amazon had a deal on the Duskmorn Nightmare bundle. Did you buy one?
No.
They're actually really cool. Like I don't have one down here, but it's the best presentation of a product that WOTC have done in a long time. Yeah. It's basically a bundle but smaller, and they made it like themed, and it looks cool.
Yeah. It looked cool when I shared it on the chat.
Yeah.
I would have bought one, but not that interested.
No, that's reasonable. But yeah, I've seen them from £55 to I think 85 was the highest I saw them. Now, one of the local game stores I spoke to said that £55 was priced at their usual margin of which they get from their supplier, right? Like, so, you know, they buy a product, they add X%, that's their price. However, I've also heard other game stores say that they couldn't buy them from their suppliers for less than Amazon were selling them for. So it begs the question, when we've all been saying WOTC are scumbags and rinsing game stores and game stores are scumbags, I actually think there's probably an element of like the suppliers are the scumbags. Because obviously every supplier, like there's multiple different suppliers in the UK. And if there's no MSRP, I guess they can just like take the game stores out to lunch if they want to. If a product sells well, or equally if a product sells badly. So I think that's probably more the case. And I'm glad that MSRP is coming back. It means you know if your game store is, you know, not ripping you off, which is nice. I'm not saying all game stores do, but you can definitely. I think it was out of necessity, but like with the Modern Horizons Commander decks, you know, we saw the Eldrazi deck selling for 100 and whatever, and all the other ones were bargain basement. Get rid of them. So, I you know, MSRPs can be damaging in that way because the stores take a hit on the less popular products, but it's definitely a good thing. So in terms of you know, where do you land on it in terms of Universes Beyond standard? This is the big one, right? Universes Beyond standard legal, Pioneer legal, if that's still a format. Thanks, WOTC. I guess we haven't actually done a podcast since that. We were slagging off Pioneer with Raoul, and then they're like, no Pioneer anymore.
Not for a year while they figure it out.
Even though now it's the best it's ever been, and it's coming to Arena at the end of this year, so that's cool. But you can't play it anymore. So what is your feeling about Universes Beyond in Standard and Pioneer and Modern, obviously? And
I guess it should be a draw for new players because it'll be IPs that they're actually like aware of.
Sure.
Rather than just whatever kind of plane that WOTC have taken us to, which has been inconsistent and...
Yeah, there hasn't been the... I mean, even since I played full stop, there hasn't really been the blocks of like, we're here, now we're here, now we're here.
Yeah, and the last good one was Gatewatch, right? Like, that storyline was...
I had a lot of people liked... it was just before I started playing, but the whole War of the Spark thing. Was that Ravnica? Was War of the Spark Ravnica part of guilds and
that's
allegiance?
Kind of a follow-on from Gatewatch, right, though?
I don't...
I don't know much about it, but I imagine that they've run out of ideas, or Hasbro's gone, look, you've got to carry these IPs now, and spread the word.
Yeah, I mean, Lord of the Rings was fairly successful. Warhammer was fairly successful. I think Assassin's Creed was a bit more questionable as to its success. I think the big question I have with it is is it going to actually lead to new players, right? So with the current IPs that have happened, it has led to new players. Like Lord of the Rings, unquestionably. Warhammer, a lot of people I knew that played Warhammer picked up those Commander decks, but this is now competitive we're talking about. So firstly, is it actually going to bring players into Comp, or is it just going to bring them into Commander? And secondly, is it actually going to put players off? Because if it's now... I know a lot of players that weren't happy about having to play Lord of the Rings IP in Modern because they don't like Lord of the Rings. So, as an example here, with the most extreme one, they have announced that there is SpongeBob SquarePants Universes Beyond. Now, if they print Mr. Krabs and it is an absolute powerhouse key card,
fingers crossed,
our entrenched Magic players I think Lord of the Rings got a bit of a pass because it's the same vibe of the universe.
Yeah, fantasy,
very grand, Are they going to really want to pick up 4 copies of Mr. Krabs to play in their standard deck?
I see. I don't think there's much issue there because you've already got like the planes already represent different kinds of flavors of fantasy or cartoon-esque elements anyway. So if you didn't like what was the mouse, Minx and Boo or whatever.
Oh, Minsk and Boo.
If you quit the game because of that, then you're probably going to quit because of SpongeBob.
Yeah, we've been Thunder Junction, Wild West, Murder Mystery, Karlov Manor, horror theme, Duskmorn, Bloomburrow with fucking Redwall. Like I understand that.
Now they've just got deeper and richer lore because they've actually getting
more IP.
Yeah,
I think it brings up an element, and I've got bias towards it because I never liked it as a kid. So I quite liked fighting games when I was younger. Soul Calibur was like my favourite. I love Soul Calibur. And the general series, I thought they were amazing.
Tekken, Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter.
I didn't like Mortal Kombat. I don't know why, it never resonated with me. But I never liked Super Smash Bros., which was a really popular game. Like I got into it a little bit when it came to Switch. I bought a Switch for it, played it for 2-3 months, and then sold my Switch. It feels a little bit Smash Bros. In terms of like we're just throwing all of these fucking characters into a
melting pot,
and hoping for the best. And I guess it worked with that. Like it's one of the most popular Nintendo games, fighting games. It was, maybe this is an overreaction, and it is just going to be another day at the office, and we all move on. And
I think the Marvel card design's really good though. Like I think it really fits as long as they keep doing the same magic. Driven by magic mechanics rather than lore of characters. Like if they get that balance right, I don't see an issue. But then I probably am not the kind of player who's looking at the cards and even thinking about what's on them other than the rules text.
I think it was I was having a conversation with someone, and they made the point of I don't want to have to buy 4 Sephiroths. You know what I mean? Like with the whole Final Fantasy thing. And I kind of get that a little bit because it does feel a little bit weird. And it shouldn't.
Yeah.
But I think with Lord of the Rings, it didn't really matter because other than Samwise, nothing saw play, right? Like Rosie Cotton or whatever, which was a played card in these food decks, that's like Rosie Cotton from Bloomburrow, Rosie Cotton from... it's not a character that resonates, so you're kind of whatever. The One Ring is an object.
Yeah.
So there wasn't really any actual characters. And I think that's the difference. And with Marvel as well, I think there's a Doctor Strange counterspell, right?
Yeah.
For me, that's an extension of Secret Lair where it's a card we know how it functions, we know how it works, we know it's a staple, but it's just got a different art. I think I don't have any problem with that. I think it is that potential when characters that we know. I know obviously Lorcana, Disney are not going to collaborate because they have Lorcana, but it's the same thing of if you had Mickey Mouse or whatever, right? It's those iconic, everyone knows them characters.
Again, I feel I resonate more with Ragavan than I would Gandalf. They're the same for me in lore. Just as much.
Sure.
Fun.
But maybe SpongeBob is too new for our age group. What if it was Homer Simpson? Do you know what I mean? Would that not feel fucking weird?
No.
Homer Simpson as a
he's obviously going to be a legendary creature, right? So you're only ever going to have one on the battlefield.
I think that I don't know. SpongeBob is the one that does cross the line because you're going from these powerful bit like Cloud, Sephiroth, the Final Fantasy stuff, Lord of the Rings.
What is SpongeBob's powerful? The whole show's a fever dream. What are you talking about?
Yeah, but that's what I mean. It's not it's. I don't know. For me, it's in that same irk of Rick and Morty, South Park, Family Guy. If we had Peter Griffin on a Magic card, I don't know.
Fingers crossed. I'm there for that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't
just
know
got
if I
to
can handle it.
Dream.
Maybe.
I mean, I think it's not a bad place for Magic to be going, to be honest.
I mean, I've picked a bad time to start trying to sell some high-end stuff because I've been putting it off for 2 weekends, and then after this, it feels like cards just aren't moving now at all. Like,
well, people have got to wait, see how it shakes out, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you should just be buying into Lorcana.
yeah. I don't know. I do feel that way a little bit that this is the time for those other games to like really strike. Like if they want to like hit Magic while it's weak. And I think Flesh and Blood, from what I've seen of UK players, seems to have resonated because it's been like a perfect storm of they had their PTQs that you can sell the invites for, which is like a huge draw for Magic players that love EV. And it's for an event in London, as WOTC are kind of like rattling the wheels a little bit on the wagon.
Yeah, but I think depending on what you want to, like, I would totally get into Flesh and Blood because I think the mechanics of the game are really interesting. But the mechanics of Magic are really interesting and iconic and successful. And I don't think being the Super Smash Brothers of card games is bad, right?
Sure.
Over being like Tekken or Street Fighter. Like Disney can't do what Magic is doing. Do you know what I mean? They cannot do it. Like it's Magic have found this universes beyond thing and they've gone, it's really successful. And if people are willing to negotiate IP and actually get on board with this, we could be rattling it off every year. And yes, there's going to be peaks and troughs where people are like, oh, actually, I don't want to play with SpongeBob because, reasons. But I will come back when it's whatever. And is that really a bad place to be? Like, as long as the mechanics stay the same. I'd say the combat element maybe is dancing on the edge of unacceptable, as in, like, oh, we're changing a core way.
Fundamental of the game.
But as long as they don't cross the line there, I think it's interesting.
Yeah, sure. No, that's fair enough. I think it's good to get that perspective because like that, you've played Magic a lot longer than I have, so I don't know if all the time my views on these things are just warped because I don't care because I'm not super deep in Magic.
Yeah, but I'm a different kind of player, right? I play the game because it's interesting and competitive, and the kind of chess element of it and overcoming puzzles in the game.
Sure.
I know people who care about the characters on the cards and know the storyline.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
To be honest, I don't even register it as Ragavan. It's just a 2/1 that makes a treasure and exiles.
Yeah. No,
That's what it does,
agree.
right?
I agree.
Oh, actually, it is a cute monkey. Sometimes I don't care what it is.
Yeah, no.
I can tell you what a Sky Marcher aspirant is, or how it's relevant in the lore of what is a Sky Marcher.
I do remember, actually. I don't even know who it was. It was back when I used to play Commander. Someone was outraged that one of the Planeswalkers had come back after dying or something, and I was like, I didn't know.
They died?
They died, yeah. Like, oh, cool. Like, I don't know. So yeah, I think there is that side of it as well. But as long as they're careful, we'll see. And I think it was Mark Rosewater has come out and said this is just like for now. In terms of this half and half. So it's interesting that they're exploring it, and I don't think it's quite as catastrophic as people say. I guess something we should talk about that we didn't have on the topics as well is they've obviously announced the upcoming RCQs. So rather than
have they?
Did you know this, right?
No.
Yeah, you did because you complained about it.
Did I?
Yeah, because it's all standard.
Oh right. Yeah.
So like 3 standard, 1 modern. For the next season. Firstly, I only thought there were 3 RCQ seasons in a year. I thought we were done now. Modern was out of the way, but I think it was because I didn't register whatever the first one was of the year when I got into them, so I didn't, track that was a thing. But it seems an interesting one. It feels like maybe it would have made more sense to be modern, standard, pioneer, standard. You know what I mean? If you're gonna let's ease people into the standard world.
Oh, I don't mind them getting rid of pioneer, to be honest, but
But Pioneer is the best place it's been in a long time. In a long since its inception.
Know, I'm not following it.
Yeah, sure. But I think this is, controversial point. I think this is a lot of people's problem with it. Is, I've seen people that just didn't play standard for the last RCQ season and are now saying they are not playing comp next year, and I'm kind of like, it's kind of one of those. It's like going out for a meal. This is an insight into Team Templar. It's like going out for a meal with James Gurney, right? You know that he hasn't tried whatever food it is you're telling him is good, but he won't touch it.
Yeah,
and I think it's the same kind of thing with standard. Like, it's like, it might be good, but I'm not going to even see. And I still maintain, I think that forcing players to just play one format is better than having... if it were up to me, I'd get rid of Pioneer and Modern. And that's from someone whose favourite format is Modern. I think it's healthier if we're playing one format.
As someone who's played Magic for a long time, I would say that, previously that was the expectation. Was that you played standard if you played competitive Magic. That's how it used to be. And there were times where it was polarising in that you knew it was just going to be blue-black control and whatever beat blue-black control, or it was going to be Jeskai black and Absam blue, or whatever miserable kind of top-table matchup that you could imagine.
Yeah.
And yes, that there was elements of people dipping in and out of the game at that point. I guarantee that the people who are entrenched Magic players who are saying, I'm not going to play the comp season next season, will have an in at some point next year when something is released that they go, oh, that looks a bit fun, or that's a bit interesting, or that's accessible on a price range. There will be ins for people who want to play the game of Magic. It will be interesting to see next year what standard looks like. When is the rotation happening? This is something I don't know.
That is another thing they've announced. So I think there is no rotation till 2027, I think.
So that Foundations comes in and then...
So Foundations is a 5-year set, I think.
Yeah.
I don't actually know this, so this might be shit. But I'm pretty sure Foundations is a 5-year set. However, they announced that they were doing 3-year rotation for Standard, but then they've changed it so that starting in 2027, when this 3-year block rotates out, they just kick the last year.
Yeah.
And I actually think that is, in my opinion, the saviour for Standard.
Yeah.
Because it means that you, at any one time, I know a lot of players are saying, this many releases is going to break my wallet, it's pricing me out of the game. Yeah. But if you have 2 of the last 3 years of cards, you have a deck, it's not going to completely go. Yeah. There's situations where maybe it will, but it's very, very unlikely that losing 1 year or 3 years of a card pool is going to kill your deck. Yeah. It's going to maybe change a little bit of it. So I think that's a really good move, but it's not till this whole set, yeets.
Yeah.
I think it was 2027. I think the notion was basically from whenever they said this rotation was happening, they were going to just wait till that whole block goes, and then they're doing the 1 year at a time kind of thing. Yeah. Which I think is kind of cool. But yeah, I don't know. I think, I know I say Modern's my favourite format. I think Modern actually does have a lot of problems at the moment. It's sped up a little bit too much. I'm not going to be popular with my teammates Will and Ed, but the Amulet deck is absolute nonsense. With Analyst, it's bad play patterns, right? It's like it's like Analyst in Standard. It's like
it's still
Lotus
not as
Field.
bad as the One Ring.
The One Ring is a problem because it's played so much, but at the weekend, we're definitely tangenting here. So with that said, let's just straight away tangent into how this Modern season's gone. And I'll talk about my final event, which was at Amersham this past weekend. I decided to go on my own. And there was one round of Magic I played. It was a key round. I was 2-1. And if I won it, I had a win and in effectively to top 8. It was 6 rounds, so you just ID the 6th round.
Yeah.
And I lost the die roll. and my opponent played a land and passed to me, and I said, cool. So I played a land, and I played Guide of Souls, and I said, over to you, friend. And then they won. And I went, oh, okay. What? Cool. And we went to the next game. And that game I was on the play, and I lost on turn 3. And it's like, I understand there's interactions there in Windows. And in game 2, there's sideboard options and hate pieces.
Yeah.
You can dig to and you can affect the game. But that game 1 was the epitome of like, no matter how well I had played that game, there was nothing I could do.
How well you'd played 2 cards.
Yeah. That's what I mean. It's like, I joked with my opponent. It's a really nice guy. Like, no problems at all with the game. It was actually enjoyable in a way. Like, he was really nice to interact with. But in that entire game, I almost wished I'd lost on turn 2 in the second game, because I almost did. It's just they played safe. And it's like, they played round in case I had some like Aurim's chant or something to lock them out, whereas in turn 3 they had a much safer window to do it.
Yeah.
So I think for context, this was a Storm and I was playing Boros Energy, and I understand Boros Energy does unfair things, but I feel like a bit of a boomer because I've made fun of them, but it has always felt like since I've played, Magic has been that turn 3 if you get the nuts, whereas now it feels like if you get the nuts, you can win on turn 2.
Yeah.
And if you're on the play, that is actually quite unfortunate for your opponent.
Yeah.
Because they haven't even had a chance to operate. And I think those play patterns where you effectively just have to watch someone, dig through and do the stuff, and you're kind of like...
I would argue that Storm's less of an issue than Amulet, though, because Storm's not particularly consistent. Like, but
that almost makes it worse because you have to watch.
but I meant like consistent in that round that they beat you, they probably were running really hot.
Oh yeah, they went 3-3. They went from 3-1 to 3-3.
And then they didn't probably do that well later on, right? Like the decks are half and half deck, and you can get the wrong half. Whereas Amulet's a bit more consistent and less interactive because they do a lot of land activations rather than casting spells or creatures.
Sure.
But yeah, anyway, that might be a problem in Modern, but I still think it's no more or less of a problem than the One Ring, right?
Yeah, sure. I mean, my point more so is like these formats we seem to have great attachment to and trash on others. I do think it is actually quite narrow vision. Even our comments on Pioneer, like Pioneer wasn't as bad as I think this is the thing, and it lacks the context. When we sit here with a camera on and slag off a format incessantly, it's exaggerated, right? Like there's an element of like, yes, you may not like that thing, but it is there's an element of having to exaggerate something to try and make it entertaining. And Pioneer wasn't good, but it also wasn't like I'd rather have my nails pulled out. Like it was fine. And I think this is the point.
It was reminiscent of a bad standard format, though.
Yeah,
like that's what. And it maybe it's got a little bit better, but it was reminiscent of a stale, solved scenario.
But I know a lot of people are like really. There's people in our local game community that just won't touch Modern. And it's not even because of the price point, because they played it when it used to be expensive. They're just not happy to play it now when it's expensive. And it's the same thing with Standard. Like, there's even guys on the Templar that are kind of, you're one of them. You're not looking forward to Standard. And I think my point more so is that I just think people like to see their little square with a lot of
fondness.
Fondness, yeah. And I don't think Modern's that good, even though for me as well, Modern's my favourite format. But when I actually think about it, I'm like, objectively, it's probably not that good.
If I'm honest, Flesh and Blood's better.
Yeah.
Magic at the moment, right? So I just haven't got anyone or anywhere to play it.
So there's those elements as well. But rounding up the Modern format, the Modern RCQ season, it went pretty well for the Templar.
It did.
We had, how many local RCQs did we have?
6.
6 local RCQs, 4 people qualified.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And then the bald man, did he qualify?
The bald man did qualify. Which bald man? No, Dan, the angry northerner, did qualify, as did
Emilio.
No, Emilio qualified for Pioneer. Who was the 6th? Ricky.
That's it.
Yeah. I keep forgetting who qualified where. He qualified in the very first one, didn't he?
Yeah.
When he beat James Gurney on Nardi.
Yeah.
So it's been a very good season. Basically, from the team, me and Will are the failures in that I will say that you couldn't go anyway, so it didn't matter.
Yeah.
I'm heading to Prague regardless. I'm going to do the LCQs. I think this season I didn't take it seriously early enough because I think I played Merfolk at 3 events. And to be fair, one of the 6 events we went to locally, I wasn't supposed to be playing. But I lost my voice, so I couldn't cast. So I was playing Merfolk feeling like absolute hell.
I mean, we were obviously just modern bashing. But talking about format-wise, like the small meta games that we played in those 6 RCQs were very different. Like you could have... you could say you'd bring Boros on 2 of them and it would have been a walk to the top 8 and potential qualification, and then the other 4 you just get absolutely stomped in the Swiss.
Yeah, I think so. I think the quality of our local RCQs is good. Genuinely, I think the player base is actually really, really strong. Amersham, I went to both of the RCQs there. One because we had a little secret project lined up that will be coming soon. And the other one was out of the fact that it was the last RCQ I could go to of the season, unless I decide to go next weekend.
What's happening next weekend?
There's an RCQ at Darksville. I don't know if I'm going to fucking go. I'm talking myself out of going, but I'm like, it's only a train ride.
To be fair, it is.
Yeah.
And it's a nice venue. I rate Darksville.
Yeah. But the Amersham, so in particular, the Amersham RCQs, I think, have a step up of player quality. Because you have the grinder circuit that go to them. And I don't know for the second RCQ because I don't think I had a top 8 rundown. But the first RCQ, I believe the top 8 was about 50% combo.
Yeah.
So it was like Storm Belcher. You know what I mean? There were a lot of combo-y decks. And I think that's what our local meta only really has a couple of combo players. And I think that's the difference of subjectivity of the quality of the format, because I think too much combo or too much control, honestly, in my mind, warps it, because it really varies the length of games and the experience the players have. But yeah, all of that last Amersham RCQ was ridiculous. I think, having spoke to people, I think over a third of players there had already qualified, and you're just like, why? I lost 3 rounds in that RCQ, 2 qualified players, and I'm just like, cool. 2 of them were trying to get the Invitational, and Yakel in the last round was trying to get the RCQ because he's in the Invitational but hasn't got the RCQ. So it's 2 different reasons, which
that's
is quite
a good
funny.
Place to be, though, for a community, right? Is to have reasons to go to tournaments that isn't just the RCQ qualification. Having the Invitationals are really interesting.
Yeah, I think Axion have killed it this modern season, and I think Axion continue to do some really good stuff. I'm obviously gassed because I managed to get lucky enough to win a golden ticket at the RCQ. Yeah, I don't know if there's any. Is there any information on there? No, there's not.
No, not on that bit. That's just
that's
congratulations.
the show bit.
Shall I show them the QR code?
Oh yeah, I'd rather you didn't. Actually, it just takes you to a terms and conditions page, so it's whatever. But yeah, no, that made my weekend. But at the same time, I think everything Axion are doing is really exciting. In terms of the wider modern season, though, obviously Rocco qualified, Ed qualified, Michael qualified. Finally, Michael got the dub, which is sick. Super gas for Michael. He keeps coming second in the RCQs. He literally won a fucking Mega Modern and hadn't been to an RC. So it's the hardest competition in the UK by a mile. So really glad he's got his ticket to Prague. And obviously Gurney as well. I think it was good. I think Gurney had a bit of a up and down season because he had a bit of that Michael syndrome in like coming second a lot and slipping at the last hurdle. So really glad he
playing
he
the
got
best decks as well. He started on Nardu, right, and then
and then swapped over. And I think it was obviously he had to swap over because he got banned over. Yeah, sure. But so it's exciting. There's going to be a lot of us going to Prague. I'll still be going. I don't think Will is, and you obviously can't because of reasons. Work commitments. But I think it was overly successful. I think the local scene was really, really good. Six events. I think shout out to Skyward Fire Games, absolutely amazing venue, amazing owners, amazing staff. Everything about Skyward's great. Shout out to Langdon, again, amazing owner, amazing staff, everything. And I'll actually say Langdon, I think the RCQs may have even got smoother. Like they were one of the best run, but they got even smoother this season. There was like everything just worked. There were
the new location of the TV.
but that's what I mean. Those kind of things make a little bit of difference,
quality
right?
of life,
quality of life improvements, which are really
Greg's
cool.
around the corner, can't go wrong.
Yeah, and Shuffle Cafe, obviously in Bury. I don't think. Did you make it out?
I didn't go to Shuffle.
Really nice venue.
I hear good things. So.
Yeah,
and
really,
apparently
really
the
nice
food's
venue.
banging and and I'm there for that, to be honest.
Yeah, they did the usual 20-minute, half an hour lunch break and took pre-orders. So like as the lunch break started, they're bringing out like paninis and shit, and it was so good. It was very, very nice.
Yeah.
So hopefully they'll do standard as well.
Yeah. Well, that's it. Like we obviously are always spoiled in the modern season because modern attracts a larger player base in this part of the country. Pioneer was a bit dead. They didn't run as many. Standard somewhere in between, but hopefully.
So standard is our other local game store, Athena Games. We have a lot of local stores here that are good. We're very blessed by it. But standard is their most popular format by a mile. I think they get like 12 to 15 players. So I think standard's going to be good. I know that Langdon are doing 2. I know that Skyward Fire are doing 2. I've heard whispers that Shuffle are doing 1. Which is great. They had a standard community as well. And I think Athena's still pending. So we've got at least, as far as I'm aware, I think we have 5, which is close to modern, which is a really good place. Yeah. And I think Shuffle had that element. I feel really bad. They had like 4, 5 local players that came with standard decks. One of them, I'm really glad because in a way I'm glad and I'm not glad because they had Will in round 1, but Will was playing Amulet, so it was like super friendly, nice player to welcome you into comp, but really degenerate day. And then round 2, I looked over and they were playing against James, and I was like, oh no. But hopefully they come back for the standard season. It is just the unfortunate.
How much is that card? £50.
Yeah.
How much is that card? £50.
It's one of those unfortunates, right?
At least Rob could have just come in with Burn and been like, "This is really affordable." Or Charbelge.
Charbelge, yeah. I think that's the thing. I think standard for an RCQ season is going to be a lot better for anyone that's coming in with like a draft deck and wants to get into it because you may not win, but you're not going to get absolutely.
Yeah, it's not like modern where you're like, when was that card printed? Oh,
yeah, exactly. Exactly. So yeah, it's looking up. And speaking of standard, obviously another topic we wanted to cover today about Worlds. I know you didn't necessarily follow it. It was really unfortunate. Obviously rooting for Sean in the Player of the Year race and supporting the UK scene as it were. And it didn't go as well. For Sean, I think dropped on day 1. But then it made for a very interesting semi-final because not luckily because I'm rooting against them, but Simon Nielsen didn't make the top 8. And Simon Nielsen was like the front runner with Javier Dominguez, Seth Manfield, and I believe Sean were like in that. They needed him to do a bit badly and they need to top 8 win. And the semi-final led to Seth Manfield versus Javier Dominguez. And Seth Manfield went 2-0 up and lost 3-2. And Javier took the whole thing down. Yeah. So it was really,
I'm buzzing for Javier, to be honest, because he obviously lost out to Simon.
Yes, with the controversial the trigger protection, trigger protection situation.
Ban the One Ring.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it was actually, I quite enjoyed watching Standard, and I think something, because I know you're not too hyped on it, you're not going to go out and spend 400 quid on the top Standard deck, right?
No,
you're not in that place.
I couldn't possibly afford that, to be honest.
Yeah, he tells you that, but
I brought too many badminton.
You should see his badminton racket bag. Yeah. But no, what might excite you, and I have actually purchased the deck because it was very affordable in comparison to some of the others, but the best performing Swiss deck was mono red. Not even red green, and they got to the semi-final. So yeah, I think they went 6-0 literally in the in the Swiss and took it all the way to the semi-final, which was really nice to see. I think it's always good to see those kind of more budget decks do well, because it's good for anyone trying to get into the format. And the deck that won, the Demir Demons deck, is actually like really. Well, it was really cheap. Some of the cards have now spiked, as is always the way, but it's affordable compared to watching Rakdos Scam win Pro Tour Lord of the Rings or whatever, right? Like, you're looking at it with a little bit more like, oh, I could buy that and not hurt too much about it. So,
I imagine I'll borrow a deck and come to RCQ to see what's cracking, and then maybe, as is my addictive personality, I'll then go and drop £400 on the wrong deck.
Yeah. That is the way. Yeah, I think there was so there was a blue-white kind of mid-rangey control deck that did quite well. There was a blue-black combo-ish deck that did very well. Mono red and red green both did well. Just power shenanigans.
Yeah. I've got some of those cards.
Black green actually did Golgari mid-range did quite well as well. So it seems like there's quite a range. Variety of decks.
But what it's missing, Stephen, is mono white.
Yeah, there isn't a good mono. Humans and Pioneer is supposed to be one of the best decks now.
Oh yeah, but who's playing Pioneer?
True. Well, I am in 1 week. I keep looking at the list. It's Azorius Humans now, and they've just splashed the Mockingbird.
Yeah.
So you can just like copy
stuff,
whatever.
And
which
that's
pretty good.
That's at Lille, is it?
Yeah. Next weekend, going out to France, which will be exciting.
Just you and Eddie Boy.
I think there's a lot of local players out there, but we're travelling on our own. We decided to get the last train back on the Sunday, with the agreement that if I qualify and top 8, or if Ed top 8s, I'm going to do LCQs. I'm super hyped about the new format of just like throw money into a pit until you qualify. That's sick. But for real, like top 16ing or whatever it was, like a 300-person event is ridiculous. Yeah. 9 rounds into 9 rounds the next day. Whereas, just playing little Swiss tournaments for you lose, you're out is a lot better in my opinion. And actually as well, just to shout out Fanfinity, last year, was it last year? No, this year when I went to Naples, I think I paid €100 for an LCQ package. Which was so I paid more to get the all you can drink VIP crap
area, yeah.
But effectively it was €100 for the actual LCQ, and what you got for that was a bag, a bottle of water, a plastic deck box, and a promo.
Yeah.
For this one, it's €75 for two €25 entries to LCQs.
Yeah.
A printed promo mat of the promo Goblin Guide, a printed promo real deck box of the Goblin Guide, and promos, and pens, and life pads, and yada yada yada. So it's cheaper, and you get more. And my dog seems very upset. I don't know what he's heard outside. Apparently someone's invading the property, but he'll be all right. But yeah,
it's a spooky night.
Something like that.
Halloween.
Yeah.
Halloween.
Yeah. Do you does Halloween ever fall on work days for you? Do you ever have to dress up for Halloween?
No, just World Book Day.
Okay.
Hence Winnie the Pooh.
Sure. Yeah. The Halloween. There were no magic themed Halloween costumes at this year's Halloween party, which was disappointing. When when I used to,
Jarmy came as a salty magic player.
Well, yeah, that's true. I mean, yeah, Ed did say he was going to come as Primeval Titan, and didn't. So that would have been pretty funny. But back in the day,
just hasn't got the physique for it.
Yeah, that's fair. But back in the league days, people used to. the yearly Halloween party. People used to come as league characters every year. I think. My Danish friend Marcus came as a Mumu, gift wrapped a Mumu, and bandaged up fully, and had and we had a Nasus. That was quite good. I think my friend Reese came as Orn one year, which was pretty funny. We went down this rabbit hole of like really rogue Halloween costumes to go out into the city, and I think my favourite one was Fresh, and you just chuck lanterns at people. Just
Did you see that footballer recently who blew 2 fingers off with his flare? He picked up a flare on the pitch, and it blew up in his hand.
That is unfortunate.
It's just yeah.
That's
a rough day at the office, right?
I will say though, speaking of flares and football hooliganism, I did enjoy when I think it was an Italian team's ultras. I can't remember. It was a Champions League game, and there were just some lads playing five-a-side in London, and to kill time until kick-off, they just went and watched this five-a-side game, flares going, drums going, just screaming at these teenagers, all in good fun. It made for a very good, you couldn't even see the pitch because it was just like red flares. But yeah.
We should do that at a Magic tournament. Just
go
around table number 1.
Yeah. Bring a little bit more enthusiasm into Magic. I do think that's what, this is real tangent stuff, but I do feel for me that is what ruins professional Magic casting. I think the professional Magic casters are great. Like, there's so many good casters, but compared to watching League or a sport, there's none of that hype. And you really need those people screaming down the mics and hyping up. We should just do it in person, when someone's
I still miss Cedric Phillips. He was the hype master.
He's been back. He's been back.
He still
did
not
the SCG tour.
Yeah. Oh, is that back? Is the SCG
tour
tour
back? Was it SCG or SCG tour was back for the RCs in America are the SCG.
Nice.
And Cedric Phillips was doing it, so that was cool.
I'll have to tune into that.
Yeah, it was Pioneer, so that's probably why you missed it. But yeah, but it's back. It's back. So looking forward to Standard a little bit, and I guess kind of to close things out today, it's going to be a bit of a weirder, shorter, rambly episode. But we do have some exciting stuff coming up soon and some exciting announcements. I don't even know how many of these you actually know about, so that's
probably none of them.
Probably none of them. Okay, cool. So some of them involve you, so hopefully you are somewhat cognitively aware of those ones. But
do I sign up for stuff?
Yeah, maybe not. Who knows?
I thought this was my last commitment.
Yeah, no. It's a lifetime membership, unfortunately. But no. So we're going to be. Firstly, there's a video coming up. This video will go live on the 31st. So this will, and I say live, video going live on YouTube. Obviously, this podcast will be uploaded to Spotify as well. So if you're listening on Spotify, go check out our YouTube channel. I think I don't really shout that out enough that there is other forms of content that is available. So vice versa, if you ever want to listen to the podcast in the car and you are watching on YouTube, there is a podcast on Spotify that you can search, and it's a lot safer than having YouTube open while driving. But YouTube episode is and the podcast is going to be going up on Spotify on the 31st on Halloween. It's going to then be followed up this coming Sunday. We're going to be doing our Langdon roundup, which, spoiler, was the one that Ed won. But it's quite a funny video. Todd had a bit of a run-in with EE and BT, which I'm sure he didn't enjoy, but made for good viewing as he struggled to resolve his contract.
A service provider who are jointly owned. They own each other.
Yep. But it's not a monopoly.
They don't communicate with each other. So when you move from one to the other, they think you're renegading on a contract, and
But maybe that's how they get around the monopoly rules.
Ironically, after that, I was then diagnosed with high blood pressure.
Yeah. So no coffee for you anymore.
No,
pretty funny.
Hence the passive.
Yeah, low. You're just a vessel now.
I am. I'm a shadow of my former self.
But yeah, we got that. In addition to that, we're going to be doing 2 podcast episodes a month. We're going to be doing a shorter one, which will probably be about half an hour, with just myself and Todd, and then we're going to be trying to get a guest on every month, which will be more of an in-depth discussion. I think The recent podcast with Benton and Raoul were really cool to have that kind of trifecta and have a different perspective on things rather than listening to the same old song of our opinions. So that'll be exciting.
That sounds very similar to a model that we were talking about earlier in the podcast. So are we naming that second podcast Universes Beyond?
We
Stephen
could
and
do.
Todd?
We could do. I think Papa Hasbro may knock on the door at some point.
What could we call it? Where we basically just go, we're shit.
Yeah,
Here's something else.
Yeah, that is fair. Yeah, we'll have to come up for a formal name for it. But we have a very special episode which Todd wasn't able to attend. That's going to be coming in November. I don't want to spoil it yet, but I had the pleasure of interviewing some very special guests for the podcast for that one.
I did not have that pleasure.
Yeah,
much
I know. It was a shame. But we'll still have a regular boring duo podcast in November as well.
Like this one.
Yeah, like this one. Just two grumbly old men.
Yeah.
And in addition to that as well, I believe we've got another couple of fairly big videos planned before the end of the year. We're going to be doing a refresh 2024 Meet the Team, which will be exciting. We'll have the vlogs all up for Lille, for the Axion 10th anniversary, the Invitational. Todd and Michael are competing there. It's going to be very interesting. We'll be doing a behind-the-scenes kind of follow along the journey and see how they do in the Invitational.
I'll tell you how I draft badly.
Yes, yeah. And it's all going to be fun and games. And eventually, maybe my hope this Christmas, with some time off work, we might actually be in a different recording space in January. Maybe. But no promises. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for watching. Do follow, do subscribe, all of that jazz, and we will see you in November.
See you in November.
That didn't stop recording.
Peace.